This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
This is your WLAK Daily News Roundup for Lake Air, 107.5 FM and 1260 AM in Amory.
For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly. The suspect in a December hit-and-run that led to a high-speed chase has officially been charged. 52-year-old Brian Drain of Spooner was arrested shortly after the alleged hit-and-run in December. According to court documents, when authorities attempted to stop Drain following the collision, he allegedly fled and reached speeds of 100 miles per hour. He was charged with attempting to flee an officer, possession of methamphetamine, hit-and-run, and reckless driving. He is scheduled to appear in court again in February to answer the charges. A 19-year-old Duluth man is facing charges after being accused of shooting a woman during an apparent drug deal. According to court documents, 19-year-old Evan Edblom is facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. The incident occurred on January 21st, and the victim allegedly told authorities that her boyfriend had intended to sell about $100 worth of marijuana to Edblom. She said Edblom then attempted to rob them and shot at their truck about 10 times as they attempted to flee. Wisconsin Republicans are once again looking to amend the state constitution to limit the governor's partial veto power. Republicans have made multiple attempts to limit those veto powers, including a prior effort at a constitutional amendment and lawsuits challenging specific vetoes, like the partial veto that extended school funding increases for the next 400 years. Governor Tony Evers has criticized the repeated attempts to amend the Constitution, saying Republican lawmakers should implement a citizen ballot initiative instead. Rusk County Public Health has announced a confirmed case of mumps in the county. In a press release on Thursday, health officials reminded residents that the best way to protect themselves from the highly contagious disease is to get the MMR vaccine. Residents should also be on the lookout for symptoms of the virus, including swelling around the jaw and flu-like symptoms like a fever and headaches. Symptoms may also not show for 2 days after infection, during which time the virus can still be spread to other people unknowingly. Senator Tammy Baldwin held a virtual town hall on Monday on her efforts to address challenges facing western Wisconsin. Baldwin drew attention to the rising cost of living in the region, especially in housing and healthcare. She proposed implementing a tax break for first-time home buyers, continuing to lower prescription drug prices, and capping the cost of inhalers at $35 per month. Senator Baldwin also highlighted her work to secure a $1 million grant to help unhoused children at Hillview Community Service Center in La Crosse. State Republicans are proposing to ban cell phones in K-12 public school classrooms across Wisconsin. The proposed legislation would require school districts to implement their own policies for banning electronic devices like phones and tablets in the classroom. Some districts have put similar policies into effect already, many of which later backed off the cell phone ban amid criticism from students and parents. State lawmakers say the trickiest part of the policy would be districts figuring out the best way to actually enforce the bans. The city of Ashland will host a public hearing on potential improvements at JFK Memorial Airport on Tuesday. The city is considering improvements like runway rehabilitation, installing new lights and signage, and purchasing more land for runway approaches. They are also considering the purchase of snow removal equipment, updating the terminal building, reconstructing airport parking lots, and preparing a new airport master plan. The hearing will be held during the city council meeting at City Hall on Tuesday at 6 p.m. The Duluth Housing and Redevelopment Authority has received nearly $1.4 million in state funding to build and sell single-family homes around the city. As the price of housing continues to increase amid higher demand and lower supply, the Duluth HRA plans to build 3 homes in the Central Hillside neighborhood and 12 homes in the Morgan Park area. Officials say the homes will be a mix of 2- and 3-bedroom houses and feature sustainable power sources. City officials say they need to increase housing stock to match their growing workforce. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation Division of Motor Vehicles is reminding residents that they can obtain free identification for voting. According to a press release, voters do not need to obtain one of the new Real ID cards in order to vote, even though the Real ID cards will be required for domestic air travel beginning this year. Voters can obtain a valid state ID that can be used at their polling sites for free through the DMV website. The full requirements to obtain a voter ID card can also be found on the Wisconsin Elections Commission website. The deadline for the annual Wisconsin Governor's Business Plan Contest is fast approaching. The yearly contest, produced by the Wisconsin Technology Council, asks entrepreneurs to submit their business ideas and connects them with resources like business plan templates and networking contacts. Finalists in the contest could also receive shares of cash and service prizes. The deadline to enter the 2025 competition is Friday at 11:59 p.m. Contest applications can be submitted online at govsbizplancontest.com. For WLAK News, I'm James Kelly.
The Bucks defeat the Jazz. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Another win for Milwaukee, 125-110 over the Utah Jazz. Head coach Doc Rivers asked why would the refs call a flagrant 2 foul on the Bucks' Andre Jackson with less than a minute left to play.
Late in the game, my opinion, the refs were probably trying to keep the game clean. I think Sexton and Dre were getting into it, and honestly, I think they believe get one of them off the floor, so nothing happened. So I get it. I didn't think it was a flagrant 2, but I think that's the reason.
The Bucks are in Portland tonight against the Trailblazers. College basketball, the Badgers travel to Maryland to play the Terrapins tomorrow night. Wisconsin now ranked 17th in the nation. NFL, the Green Bay Packers have signed Rich Bisaccia to a contract extension, adding on an additional 2 years. Bisaccia is assistant head coach and special teams coordinator, and Luke Getsy has returned to the coaching staff as an offensive assistant. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Reruns are not just for 1980s TV shows. Most of the money that flowed in from the box office this weekend is from films that have been out for anywhere from 2 to several weeks. The exception did open number 1 this past weekend. Lionsgate's Flight Risk opened with a $12 million take. The movie looked somewhat ridiculous in the trailer, but Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch frontman Mark Wahlberg now happens to be a bankable movie star. No word on if him appearing bald in the film affected the box office. The movie only drew about 20% positive reviews, but audiences seem to view it a little more favorably. Looks like something we've seen before, but maybe that's why it opened number 1. Coming in second place was Disney's Mufasa the Lion King, which is in its 6th week of release. In third place was One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA, which has been a nice surprise hit for Sony Pictures, pulling in good reviews and good audience marks. Rounding out the top 5 were a couple of swell sequels, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Moana 2. There are all kinds of benefits to having a younger host of Wheel of Fortune, especially when it comes to explaining internet slang to your letter-turning co-host Vanna White. Vanna White posted a picture of her and her son cooking together on social media, which brought her son lots of attention, with people referring to the picture as a thirst trap. Not judging, because I had to Google it myself, but White said she had no idea what that was, but luckily her young whippersnapper 50-year-old co-host Ryan Seacrest set everyone straight. Say what you want about Jennifer Lopez, but she is a showbiz juggernaut. The pop icon actress, who has a tendency to make headlines for all the wrong reason, just righted the ship with a standing ovation after a screening of her new film at the Sundance Film Festival. Lopez stars in the second film adaptation of the novel Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Jenny from the Block says this old-fashioned musical version of the film is one she's always wanted to make, and that witnessing a standing ovation actually made her dream come true. How can that awful Ben Affleck not love her? Well, the 2025 Super Bowl is set. It will be the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, which most people don't seem that excited about. The Chiefs will be trying to three-peat, something that has never been achieved in the Super Bowl era. The Philadelphia Eagles scored the most points in an NFL championship conference game ever, but unfortunately they can't save some of those points for the Super Bowl. Here's hoping for a good game. Timothée Chalamet plays Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. The Oscar-nominated actor came under fire for a line he ad-libbed while playing an exercise class instructor, making a joke about recently deceased President Jimmy Carter. The joke was mostly met with cringe, but people who defended him countered it was just a joke. So to summarize, Chalamet, who plays a Nobel Prize winner in a movie, made fun of a Nobel Peace Prize winner on Saturday Night Live. How noble? For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Bormans. Partly sunny and mild today with a high near 40. Still breezy with wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour. We'll keep it breezy tonight under mostly cloudy skies, a low near 24. Not as warm on Wednesday, but a decent day with mostly sunny skies, a high near 32. Currently, it's 27.
That's your WLAK Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at lakeair.radio. The national news cycle never stops. but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.